Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And with the NFL playoffs just around the corner, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we are bringing to you some NFL Hot Takes playoff edition. This is the first time we've ever done a Hot Takes episode like this, but it's fun to just make wacky out there predictions and then see if they come true throughout the playoffs. Quick, short intro. Tim?
Let's run it.
Oh, boy. So, Tim, I will let you go through your first hot take first because we have two apiece.
Okay, my first hot take for this playoffs will come out of the NFC. And I think not only in the first round, but in the second round, we will see some very good performances from Jimmy Garoppolo, who's coming off of a thumb injury, which he sustained, I believe it was week 16, I believe. And I think that he is going to put up 300 plus yards through the air and 3 touchdowns, upsetting the Cowboys in the first round. Not only that, but that he's also going to give Green Bay a run for their money in the second round, but I believe they will fall to the Packers in the division. Now, some of the reasoning for that is, in my mind, is we have seen Garoppolo put together some pretty good games towards the end of the season, and that includes with this thumb injury. He's had 300 plus passing yards in his past 2 games, despite injuring the thumb in the loss to Tennessee, and still throwing 300 plus yards in that game. Also, we have seen Kittle be a lot more successful with Garoppolo throwing the ball than with Trey Lance. And I think some of that is just the way those quarterbacks work, some of their progression and who they like using. So I think that Kittle is actually going to have a bit of a resurgence in this game after being on a little bit of a touchdown drought in these past couple of games. He hasn't had a touchdown in the last 4, and I think that'll be broken in this wild card game as well. So I see Garoppolo and the 49ers giving a little shakeup to this NFC side of the bracket.
That's an interesting take. Out of all of the upsets that I can potentially see in the NFC wildcard round, San Francisco over Dallas is one that I can certainly see. Although the way you describe it with Jimmy Garoppolo's performance is certainly interesting because when you think of the 49ers, you think of them being a run-first team. But that is a fair point that we have seen Jimmy Garoppolo put together some really good performances. And with George Kittle, probably most likely getting back to his usual self with Jimmy G instead of Trey Lance, who knows? It could happen. Jimmy G stays hot and the Niners upset the Cowboys. But now it is time for my first hot take. And that is the King will be back. Derrick Henry in the divisional round and the championship round will run for over 400 yards total and lead the Tennessee Titans all the way to the Super Bowl. Now, Derrick Henry has not played since week 9 against Indianapolis when he suffered a fracture in his foot. The expected recovery time was about 6 to 8 weeks. So the back end of that was week 17. Now he did not play in week 18 and the Titans had the bye week. So I expect Derrick Henry to be fully healthy and fully ready to go when the Titans play in the divisional round. Now, the Titans this season, they have loved to feed the beast. That offense runs through Derrick Henry, and he is a wrecking ball. He averages 27 carries a game and 117 yards a game, which is a full workload for a running back. I mean, shoot, he was still 9th in rushing yards, still a top 10 rusher in the NFL, almost cracking 1,000 yards despite missing half the season. And even more to that, Derrick Henry, when winter is coming, he puts on the snow tires. He turns it on in the winter. He didn't play that much. He didn't play at all during the winter this season. But last year, his 2 best games, arguably, came in the winter. December 13th, 2020, against the Jaguars, 26 carries for 215 yards and 2 scores. January 3rd, 2021, against the Texans, 34 carries for 250 yards and 2 scores. So in the winter, Derrick Henry definitely turns it on more than usual. And I believe the beast is going to be raring and ready to go come the divisional round.
I definitely agree in some of the aspect of that. Derrick Henry's gonna be ready when he comes back. I think he's a competitor that's been itching to get back on the field, and I think he's gonna get ready to have some pretty big games. But the only thing that I will point out about some of those statistics you talk about is yes, those 2 games happen to happen in the winter, but I will say matchups might have something to do with it because you're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, who he has always dominated. He is known to be a Jaguar just killer. And you have the Houston Texans, who also in the past 2 years have struggled pretty mightily. Do I think that necessarily nullifies those points? No, but I think it's something worth noting. But I think Henry is definitely ready to come back and put up some big numbers for him. We'll see what he's able to do, but I think he's going to have a big impact on how deep this Titans team can go in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to ask of Derrick Henry. I mean, 400 yards in 2 games, that's over 200 in both. But it's not like he's never done that before. He's had stretches
for him that is nowhere near
unstoppable.
impossible.
So I don't know. I think it'll happen. But Tim, what is your second hot take?
Okay, my second hot take has a little bit to do with some of the stuff that we saw earlier on the season. But given how some of the talk in this past couple of days has come out, I think that the Chiefs will come off a high from beating the just having fun Steelers, as Big Ben has so kindly put it.
They're just here to party.
They're just here to have a good time. But I think that they will come unprepared after a relatively easy wild card win and get beat significantly by the Bills for the second time this season. And as I said, I don't think that the Steelers will put up much of a fight against the Chiefs. Maybe they'll make something interesting, score a couple of touchdowns, but I don't think the Chiefs offense will have much problem against their defense. But in the Bills and Chiefs one matchup this past year at Arrowhead, Mahomes threw for 258 yards on 23 for 30 attempts and 3 touchdowns. So all in all, put together a pretty solid offensive outing. But I think that the Chiefs will chalk up their week 5 loss earlier in the season to the problems with their defense. And that has definitely improved throughout the course of this season. You've seen them put together some pretty decent defensive outings, get some turnovers, but I think that will cause a little bit of false sense of security that, we'll have that covered by now, and they won't have particularly enough stuff prepared for this Bills team, because you have a fantastically coached team by Andy Reid, but here's the thing, it's not nearly as much Andy Reid that I'm worried about, it's Steve Spagnuolo. He's the one that I'm not really sure I trust with this defense week in and week out against some of the best of this playoffs. And in that first matchup, you had Josh Allen had a fantastic game, completely picking them apart for 315 yards on only 15 of 26 attempts. So he had 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, averaging 12 yards per reception, which is pretty incredible, while also rushing for 59 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. So if there's any team that knows how to pick apart this definitely suspect Chiefs defense at best, it's Josh Allen. So I think with all the combinations, I don't think it's actually that even that much of a hot take to think that the Bills actually could have another stellar offensive game against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs might just not be able to put up enough offense to hang with them.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting hot take, because for as good as Kansas City's been in the postseason, I mean, they made the last 2 Super Bowls, lest we forget. But you're right. If there's one quarterback that Kansas City absolutely fears, it would be Josh Allen. Like you said, Josh Allen's performance in the regular season against the Chiefs was absolutely masterful. He picked them apart, left no prisoners, and there's a definite chance that it could happen again. And something that you didn't acknowledge, out of all of the playoff teams that are left, Kansas City's defense ranks dead last in pass defense. So Josh Allen, with his big arm, with his weapons of Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, all of those guys, he'll be ready to go, and that rifle will be ready to run.
I also think it's worthwhile to point out the fact that the Bills defense has had significant success with Mahomes as well. The Bills defense has obviously been very successful throughout the season, but in that first matchup, Mahomes threw the ball 54 times. mostly because they were playing catch up almost the whole game when the Bills jumped out on them early. But they kept it to 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and the Bills constantly switched looks and worked with some of that 2 deep safeties to try to take Tyreek Hill out of the game. So I think that they have a lot of the keys in their mind of how they want to try to stop this Kansas City offense. And I think they're going to be able to replicate some of that going into this game.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. But here is my second hot take, and we are definitely saving the best for last. And Tim, if you'll excuse me for just a second.
Oh, wait.
My second hot take. This is the year the Green Bay Packers are winning the Super Bowl for the first time since 2010. They make it past the NFC Championship game and they win it all. The Lombardi is coming back to Titletown. And here's why. All right. They've been here before. They know how to win playoff games, and they've gone deep into the postseason, making the NFC Championship game for the previous 2 years. So they know how to get there. And out of those 2 NFC Championship games and this team, this year is by far the best roster. And we are getting healthy at just the right time. You have a 13-4 team who clinched the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Again, by the way, they did it last year. But this year, we're getting so many impact players back at just the right time. David Bakhtiari, all-pro left tackle. Josh Myers, really skilled rookie center. Billy Turner, our right tackle, our offensive line. We've been playing with a makeshift offensive line the entire season. I mean, we had Lucas Patrick, our starting right guard, lining up at center for the whole season. And on defense, our defense was already playing pretty well, but our defense just gets that much better because Zadarius Smith, Pro Bowl edge rusher, he's back. Whitney Merciless, who we signed from the Texans, he can make an impact. He's coming back. An all-pro corner, Jair Alexander, he will be back and ready to go and lead a cornerback unit that is much improved from last year, right? Kevin who? I don't even know who that is because he doesn't touch the field with our cornerback unit because we have Jair, Rasul Douglas, who has come out of nowhere to nab picks left and right every single game and make a case for second team all-pro, in my opinion. And our rookie, Eric Stokes, who Eric Stokes go very, very fast, but Eric Stokes be very, very good. So Kevin King is our cornerback 4. We don't even really need to worry about that. This Packers team has the horses. They have the offense. They have the MVP, a first-team All-Pro wide receiver in Devontae Adams, Thunder and Lightning, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, offensive line revamped, solid, rock-solid defense. We're winning it all. Packer Nation, this is the year.
Hey, say it with your chest. So here's one of the things that I think about, because I actually think, based on what we've said so far and the different things that we've done, I believe we have the same Super Bowl game, which would be Titans-Packers. In that case, the only thing I have to point out is, do you really think that your run defense is strong enough to stop Derrick Henry? Because
Absolutely.
I think,
Absolutely.
in my mind, that is the way that the Titans beat the Packers at the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And here's why. You look to late in the season last year, and this Packers defense has improved. The Titans came into Lambeau, and the Packers smoked them. Now, granted, the Titans defense is a lot better than last year, and the Titans offense, it's pretty much the same. I mean, you add Julio Jones, who hasn't been too much of a factor this year. He hasn't been too much of a factor, but he's still that guy when he's fully healthy. Mm-hmm. But the Packers keyed in on Derrick Henry, and they got the guy up the middle, Pro Bowl nose tackle Kenny Clark, that just clogs up the middle and stops Derrick Henry. We have stopped Derrick Henry in the wintertime before. We can do it again. So
it'll sure be an interesting matchup if it happens. I
that's
think
what
both
I'm
of us
saying.
have the same idea of what will happen to get to that point. But
I will be saying it loud and proud all playoffs long. Aaron Rodgers will hoist his second Lombardi.
Hey,
this is the year.
All I can say is I think there's a reason that the Titans still ended up with the 1 seed without Derrick Henry playing for half the year, and I think that offense is only heightened with him back. You talked about the fact that Derrick Henry will have that dominance going into the Super Bowl, and I think that not just him, but I think they have more options all around that offense that they can go and put up a better performance against the Packers that maybe you've seen in the past. So I'm not necessarily as confident as it being so lopsided as you may think, but
I'm not saying it's lopsided. I'm just saying they win. I don't care how they win. A W is a W. It could be by 3 points. It could be by 30 points. I couldn't care less. But who knows?
We said what we said, and it'll be.
I said what I said. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And that's all we got for NFL Hot Takes Playoffs edition. We can't wait to see how these play out throughout the playoffs. We will be bringing wild card predictions, both AFC and NFC, to you very, very soon before those games get underway. And buckle in, saddle in. It's going to be a fun play.
We're in for a wild ride, that's for sure.
And until next time, we out. Go Pack Go.